There was a boy once, Eli. He wasn't born broken, he wasn't born angry or lost. No, he started off the same as anyone, a child with wonder in his eyes, always asking why and dreaming in colors. But the world didn't care about that boy, not in the way he needed. His father would come home late, loud and full of rage. His mother would disappear into silence. He learned to tiptoe through the house, memorizing every creak in the floorboards like landmines. The dinner table was a war zone, words thrown like knives, and no one ever said sorry. But what damaged Eli wasn't just the trauma, it was the denial of it, the pretending, the forced smiles in public, the way no one ever said, "Hey, something's wrong here." That gaslighting of reality itself became the poison. You see, a human mind is resilient, but it's not invincible. Trauma doesn't just sit in memory, it embeds in the body, it warps the nervous system, it rewires how someone sees the world, others, and most tragically, themselves. It teaches a child that they are not safe, not worthy, not real. And over time, that child grows. The mask grows with him. Eli became charming, funny. He learned how to read people, to shape-shift into whatever they needed. He became a master at it, and yet, underneath, he was empty, hollow, like a room abandoned after a fire, walls still standing but the soul gone. That's what unprocessed trauma does. It splits the self. Carl Jung once said, "The greatest tragedy of the family is the unlived lives of the parents." Eli inherited that tragedy, not just in genetics, but in the silence, in the suppression, in the cold legacy of emotional neglect. He didn't go crazy in a flash. It started with the insomnia, the feeling that something was always wrong, even when everything seemed fine. Then came the paranoia, the rage, the self-hatred. He couldn't trust anyone, not even himself. Relationships turned into landmines. He'd push people away and then beg them to stay. Love became a battlefield where he played both soldier and saboteur. He tried therapy once, told the therapist he couldn't feel anything anymore, that his dreams didn't make sense, that sometimes he would look in the mirror and not recognize the man staring back. They told him it was anxiety, depression, but labels couldn't touch the real monster, the buried pain he never learned to speak. Because when trauma is ignored, it doesn't disappear. It hides, it festers, it waits. And one day, it comes out. Maybe in a breakdown, maybe in addiction, maybe in the sudden silence of someone who used to laugh the loudest. Eli began talking to himself, not just random thoughts, but conversations, arguments, screams. He'd walk past mirrors without blinking. He started carrying a notebook, scribbling thoughts that made no sense to anyone else. Friends said he changed, but the truth? He was always like this. He just ran out of energy to hide it. That's what no one tells you about going crazy. It's not madness, it's exhaustion. It's the soul giving up the performance. When a person has spent their whole life suppressing their wounds, their fears, their trauma, eventually the psyche fractures, because the human mind is not a machine. It's a fragile tapestry of memories, emotions, beliefs, and meaning. When too much of that tapestry is soaked in pain and silence, it begins to tear. Eli started believing the voices, started seeing symbols in places that made no sense. He called it patterns. He thought the universe was speaking to him directly, not metaphorically, literally. Every radio ad, every glance from a stranger, every flicker of light in a hallway became a message. What was really happening? His mind, starved of order, was creating meaning in the chaos. It was trying to make sense of what had never been resolved. That's the cruel trick of unresolved trauma. It doesn't let you rest. It doesn't let you forget. It disguises itself as anxiety, anger, even mystical insight. But behind all of it is a child screaming, "Please, notice me, save me, help me." But by then, it's too late. Because the world doesn't understand madness. It fears it. It turns it into a spectacle. And Eli, like so many others, became another cautionary tale, another statistic, another what went wrong. He didn't go crazy because he was weak. He went crazy because he was strong for too long. Some call it madness, but Carl Jung had another word for it: individuation, the process of becoming whole by facing the dark, chaotic parts of the self. But for someone like Eli, it didn't feel noble. It felt like drowning, like being pulled into the depths of something ancient and terrifying, something that didn't speak in words, but symbols, fragments, screams behind closed doors. Because here's the truth: you don't just lose your mind one day. It happens slowly, like a soft crack in a mirror that spiderwebs over time. From the outside, they might say, he just snapped, but they didn't see what happened before. The parts that weren't loud, the nights that were silent, the moments no one else was there for. When you bury the past, you don't kill it, you multiply it. Unhealed trauma becomes a ghost, and ghosts don't die, they haunt. Eli wasn't just dealing with memories, he was carrying the entire emotional weight of years of abandonment, confusion, shame, and unspoken grief. Every moment he stayed silent as a child, those moments screamed back at him as an adult. This is where the line between sanity and insanity begins to blur. In psychology, we often talk about the false self, the version of you created to survive. Not to live, not to thrive, just to survive. This false self wears masks, tells people what they want to hear, and buries the truth so deep that even you forget it's there. But that truth doesn't forget you. One day, the mask cracks, the persona can't hold the weight anymore, and when it shatters, what's left? Just the shadow, the side you never wanted to meet, the rage you said wasn't yours, the grief you claimed didn't matter, the voice inside you that whispered, you were never loved the way you needed to be. This is what going crazy really is. It's not an illness, it's not demonic, it's not even irrational. It's the human psyche breaking under the weight of pretending. Madness is the soul's protest. It's the scream of a mind that has been silenced for too long. And in a strange way, it's also a chance. Because when everything collapses, when the lies fall away, when the mask shatters, when the world no longer makes sense, you're finally left with the one thing that might save you: the truth. But it's not pretty. Eli's truth was this: he was abused, he was neglected, he was never seen for who he really was, and for years he told himself it didn't matter. But it did. It always did. Carl Jung believed that healing begins when the unconscious is made conscious, that the very act of looking at your darkness, not running from it, is the beginning of redemption. But here's the hard part. Looking at your past means feeling everything you worked so hard not to feel. And that's terrifying, because beneath the numbness, beneath the madness, is something even scarier: vulnerability. To go into your shadow, you must become soft again. You must grieve, and grief is a kind of death. Eli began to write, and not for clarity, not even for healing, just to get it out. The pages were chaotic, scribbles, drawings, sometimes just the same sentence repeated 50 times. I didn't deserve this. That sentence changed him, not because it gave him peace, but because it gave him permission. Permission to finally be angry, to be sad, to feel. And in that, he found something he hadn't touched in years: hope. Healing doesn't begin with motivation or a positive mindset. It begins with honesty, and honesty begins in pain. Eli began therapy again, but this time he didn't try to be impressive. He didn't try to be smart or spiritual. He just wept for everything. For the child who grew up too fast, for the adult who never felt safe, for the madness that made sense once he stopped running from it. He wasn't cured, but he wasn't lost anymore. He learned that madness was never the enemy. It was a message, a cry for attention from the parts of himself that had been locked away. And when he finally opened the door, those parts didn't attack him. They thanked him, because now he was finally listening. If you've ever felt like you're going crazy, if the world feels too loud and you feel too broken, know this: you're not broken. You're buried, and healing is not becoming someone new. It's remembering who you were before the pain taught you to forget. How do you begin? Start with silence. Not the numb silence of disconnection, but the sacred silence of listening. Write, scream, walk, cry, but do it consciously. Do it without shame. Read books that go beyond symptoms, books that dive into the unconscious. The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk. Owning Your Own Shadow by Robert A. Johnson. The Drama of the Gifted Child by Alice Miller. Man and His Symbols by Carl Jung. These aren't just books, they are mirrors. They won't give you answers, but they will give you permission to ask the real questions. And most of all, don't heal to be perfect. Heal so you can be real. So you can look at the mirror and recognize the one looking back. Because the world doesn't need more masks, it needs more people who have survived their shadow and come back with light.